everyone. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're ready for another episode of Pick Up the Mics Behind the Curtain, where we dive into some deeper conversations. Some of the ones that we've had in our main series, but some of the ones that we thought we'd bring to you from different conversations we've had with people, things we've seen online, and stuff like that. And what better way to start today's episode than introducing our amazing guest speaker? Now, as I always tell you guys, I don't like reading off their intros because I feel like I won't do it justice. So instead, I'm going to hand over to our amazing guest speaker today. She's got an incredible story to tell us. And yeah, over to you, guest speakers. Could you just let us know a bit about you and what you do?
Hi, my name's Dahlia. I am a recent graduate, 2021 graduate from Brunel University. I studied Biomedical Sciences. And in my last year of university, I was diagnosed with ADHD.
Thank you very much. And I guess that sort of gives an idea to our listeners or watchers, essentially what this episode is all about. And we will be talking about essentially, I guess the support services that are available to you at university. And as I've said with previous episodes of Behind the Curtain, while this episode may be focusing, solely on like the resources that Brunel have offered, please do check and look out for resources that your university or your secondary school may be offering to you as well. We're going to dive into the first official question, and that is essentially, why did you decide to study biomedical sciences? Sorry.
So I feel like my story is a little bit relatable to some people. I don't want to generalize, but I know a lot of people doing biomed kind of went the same. You do biology, you do chemistry at A-levels. You're thinking, I want to go into something clinical. I want to do something medical, things like that. Life happens. It doesn't work out. Or maybe you don't. For me, I didn't even apply for medicine and things like that. It just was not right for me at the time. But then I had biology, I had chemistry. What can I do with those things? I liked human biology, so biomedical sciences was the next step.
Perfect. And I think it's really good that you highlighted that. I've always said that I love stories where it's not necessarily, I'm not saying anyone who's had like a straight and narrow, wanted to do this from the get-go and it's been perfect since is bad, but I always do like stories like yours because essentially it wasn't just like a straight line. You had to figure out the things that you wanted, things that you liked, things you didn't like, evaluate your options and think, with what I've got available to me, what can I do? I guess before we go on to the next question, I do want to say, because I should have said this before, congratulations on graduating, especially 2021. I know had to wait a whole year for your graduation ceremony, but congratulations on that. Wish you all the best in all that you do next, and obviously we'll go on to a bit about what's next for you later on. But essentially, the next question, I guess it's a bit more personal, and essentially we just want to know more about this diagnosis process, especially at Brunel and the NHS diagnosis, because as you mentioned, you were diagnosed with ADHD in your final year. Now, I have a friend who's actually a member of the team, actually, who told me the same thing, where she was diagnosed with, I believe it was ADHD as well, but she didn't know until the end of her degree. Well, obviously, it's a bit annoying because you've been as an individual. She was saying that she had been struggling during exams. She hated exams, and it was only when she did the diagnosis process that she actually found out that she had ADHD and that was affecting her exams. And I think she didn't find out until just before the last exam of her final year. So yeah, so essentially it made it even more annoying.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it wasn't great. But essentially, yeah, I just want to know, because there might be a few students listening, whether they're at Brunel or other universities, and they might be thinking, they might already know this. They might be thinking that they might have, ADHD or anything like that. And they might just be thinking, what should I do next? What can Brunel do to support me? Or what is essentially the process that I would do at Brunel or with the NHS? So yeah, if you could just let us know, I guess, your experience with it and what students can do.
So thank you for congratulating me. Thank you for that. It was a long time, but we did it. It's finally done. But yeah, on to ADHD, my ADHD diagnosis. I guess I'll start off with how it kind of feeds in. Yes, I know it's a bit of a huge story. It's gonna be quite a bit of waffle, but it will feed into it. My older sister is also neurodivergent. So neurodivergent is on a spectrum of like autism, ADHD, things like that. My sister is autistic, and she also isn't diagnosed because women, especially women of color, the diagnoses for neurodivergence is a lot lower than our white male counterparts. That's because, medicine is very white focused, white and male focused. So she also isn't diagnosed, and she is in the process of getting diagnosed. It takes a long time. So I actually found out that I had ADHD through TikTok because like a lot of people, like a lot of girls I know, same. We find out, we're like, oh, that makes sense. Wait, that's me. And then it kind of, you get into this rabbit hole. But yeah, so I was looking up women with autism and the help that they got in the UK and things like that. I was trying to help my sister, and because ADHD and autism are so interlinked, I had on my For You page, the For You page listens, TikTok's definitely listening, but they put like women and ADHD and like women and even like women bipolar, women and BPD, and these were all really interesting to me. But ADHD was just a bit too interesting. It got to things, but it was so specific to me. It was weird. And I was like, yeah, the For You page is definitely listening, because there were things that I never knew that other people went through. There were names, for example, one thing would be auditory processing disorder. It's like, the whole I can't watch TV or like Netflix without subtitles. Is that for everything? Sometimes things just sound, it's so hard to, it's like for me, for example, in labs, I couldn't listen to demos because it was just like sound to me. It was just complete sound. So things like that, things that it was these like specific like things that happen to people I related to, and I didn't know anyone else could go through. So then after I was looking into it, I was already kind of going for help for social anxiety and things that overlap with ADHD. But it never really felt like it was a full diagnosis of the full thing. So it kind of hit me one day. I remember I was studying in prep with my friends, and I was like, why can I not concentrate? I've been trying to do this and I could not concentrate. I swear to God, for more than 7 minutes. And I was like, why can I not concentrate? And then like loads of things started to piece together. I realized, I can't concentrate, auditory processing disorder, something called rejection sensitivity dysphoria. Me and my older sister relate on a lot of different things because autism and ADHD do overlap, but she like these things don't relate with other people. And then it hit me in the middle of prep, I have ADHD. And once I was like, I have ADHD, I went down this rabbit hole of looking into how to get diagnosed. If I actually do, there was a lot of gaslighting myself. I was like, oh, no, I'm trying to be special. Like, I'm just trying to be different. Like, I'm just lazy, things like that. But yeah, like I could get into the diagnosis of the NHS diagnosis, I guess, first before the Brunel diagnosis. So once I kind of found out that there was a way to get diagnosed with ADHD. The wait list for NHS for autism, diagnosed with autism, is 2 years, minimum 2 years. It is a postcode gamble. Like some places in the UK obviously have better like mental health and NHS services for that area. So it's a postcode gamble. For ADHD, purely NHS is 4 years. So it's a long time. So I could not afford going private at the time. I was just like, whatever, I'll just, go through this. And then luckily there is something called right to choose with NHS, which is basically when you can choose who is your diagnoser, and right to choose. You can choose you can go for NHS, but choose a private diagnoser. Now, there was a company that did free private diagnosing called Psychiatry UK. And this meant that I was able to get diagnosed instead of for 4 years, the waiting time was 2 months. And that's how I was diagnosed in NHS, like officially medically diagnosed through Psychiatry UK. In terms of Brunel, what Brunel plays into a part of this. So whilst I was waiting for those 2 months, I was told by my doctor, my medical services with Brunel, and they have the most understanding doctors compared to so my old doctor, literally, I remember once I was like, I'm really I can't concentrate. I remember saying these same issues, and he was like, "You probably just have an iron deficiency. You probably like." And I remember once he went on about how stress affects women more. I don't know. It was really weird, very very weird. But the doctors at Brunel Medical Center, amazing. And one of them said to me, you should tell Brunel, like you should. Inform Brunel because it is a little bit of time, 3-4 months. And by the time 3-4 months comes about, you will be doing your exams. So you might be able to get help. So when I thought help, I thought, oh, maybe like I could get like a bit of an, like maybe I could easier get ECs. I know this is really bad. I do not advocate this. Do not get diagnosed with ADHD because you want ECs. Do not do that. I didn't. It's just, I thought in my head, okay, sometimes the workload does get very difficult for me because I have ADHD. So maybe I will be at least like, if it does get to that point, at least I'll be able to have an EC. So as I was doing my dissertation at the time, I called up Student Center and I was like, hello, like I'm in the process of getting diagnosed with ADHD. It's going to take a long time. I know I don't physically have proof for it, but what is the help that can be offered to me? Because this is kind of what my doctor told me to do. And the person on the Student Center phone line was like, hey, like, you can get diagnosed here. Like, did you know that? Did you not know that? Like, what's wrong with you? You can get diagnosed here. And I was like, okay, great. Like, tell me what to do. Like, how do I do that? And he was like, yeah, like, it's quicker and you'll get support. Like, I didn't know about the disabled student allowance. So students who are on disabilities, specific learning disability, SLPD, that's dyspraxia, dyslexia. I don't know if autism counts in that, but maybe it does. ADHD, dyscalculia is like mathematical dyslexia. These people are actually entitled to disability allowance. So you get an allowance that goes towards the tools to help you. So stuff like, people with dyslexia, they might need like e-readers. Like you can have an extra monitor because sometimes like your eyesight might be worse. It's like loads of these things are comorbid. So yeah, I didn't know that. So they were like, you can get student allowance, you are entitled to mentoring, you're entitled to so many different 25 minutes of extra time. And I was just like, I was in shock. And I also, not only was I in shock, but I also felt a bit guilty. I don't know if your friend felt that. Did she feel that?
I think because she basically like didn't find out until the end, I guess for definite, I think she just felt, I guess kind of like I guess once she found out, I think she said like at the start, she felt kind of like not necessarily disappointed, but I guess she sort of like she's like missed out on like we were saying, all these resources and support that would have helped her during the exams. But I think she just got to the point where she was just like, it was the last exam. She had already passed all of her other exams. When she found out that she had passed the exam, she was just like, it's a good thing to know in the future. But I guess she was just like, I'm happy that I passed the exam. Like, I will take what I got. I passed I passed my undergraduate. I'm happy with that. But I definitely agree that there are probably some students that might feel like what you said, like they've got somehow an advantage over other students because they've got like you said, like extra time, or they've got specific resources that most students might not necessarily have. So I even if she didn't feel like that, I'm sure that there are some students that do feel like that anyways.
I felt exactly the same. I felt both things. I felt guilty. I was like, I'm taking away someone who is struggling even worse than me. I'm taking away help that they could get when, by the way, the disabled student allowance is only allocated for you. So I think it's £200 per student, or actually it's a bit more than that, but either your university pays a bit towards it, it's like a deposit, or you pay a bit towards it. Amazing Brunel is a type of university that pays towards it, luckily on us. So but then that allocation of money is only for you, and it's a sum of money, and like if you don't use up all the resources, it's not going to anyone else. So you don't if you do feel like how I felt, like, oh, I shouldn't deserve extra time, things like that, then please do not feel like that, because you are entitled. And I also felt like your friend, in the sense that I was just like, man, like these are things that I could have, because I passed all my exams at A levels, I passed all my exams at GCSEs, kind of passed all my exams, like up until I got diagnosed in my degree. It wasn't like I was failing. It was just the physical and mental stress that I felt to pass. I always said, ever since I was young, I felt like I've had to work 2 or 3 times as hard to get half the result as everyone else. I've always felt like that. So it wasn't it. It wasn't. I was maybe I was getting like the same grade, if not similar, a bit more. But it was more like I could do that without, not sleeping for 3 or 4 days, without, like I was like heavily quite depressed because I would like it would be hard for me to like absorb information and attend lectures, and some like I used to get really bad panic attacks in my first year of university because I was like, why is everyone just sitting normally, being able to absorb information and I can't? It's just like I want to, and it's just not going in my head, and it would like make me genuinely panic. I was really embarrassed to panic because I was like, that's such a moist thing to be panicked about with lectures. Like that's so weird. But yeah, like the help that I got, I felt guilty about it. But then once I realized, oh, it actually helps me. I felt sad that it was something that I've missed out on. Like your friend, like, oh, I can't even imagine. Like I got my diagnosis in my second semester of uni. If I had one last exam, I feel so bad for her because yeah, she passed and everything. And I'm good on her that she passed, but that feeling of, you know, there's so many times that this could have helped, that I could have known and things like that is so upsetting. Like I 100% relate to that.
Oh, thank you. And yeah, no, 100%. I think it's true. I think that I think even my friend alone, there are other students as well that I'm sure, probably graduated and might not necessarily have been diagnosed, and they might not necessarily find out until years later on. And I think, like what you said, there is that sort of feeling that you're almost cheated by the system, because like what you're saying, you're putting in all this extra work, you're doing all these things, and you're just, like we said, I think it was really cool you said, putting in twice the work but getting half the result that you'd expect for how much work you're putting in. And I feel like that's something that no student should ever feel. They should never feel that, however much work they're putting in, it's not producing the result that they want to. So I'm glad to hear that, through I know the NHS one did take some time, but through both the NHS diagnosis and through Brunel's diagnosis, that you were able to, to get the support that you essentially needed, which I guess we kind of answered it. So, but I'll ask it anyways. Was basically like, how did Brunel specifically support you with your studies? I know you mentioned the allowance, which is really good. But were there any other ways that they supported you with the allowance? Did they give you any like recommendations on resources you should get, things like that?
So Brunel did so much. Like I really have to commend the Brit. Like I don't know. I never, maybe because maybe I was lucky. Maybe all the people I dealt with, but from I dealt with maybe like 5 people altogether. Every single person was so like unpatronizing. They were so understanding. A lot of them had people that in their personal lives that had dyslexia, that had ADHD, that were autistic, that they could relate to, that they could relate me to, saying like, please do not feel like you're not worth anything, that you're stupid, things like that. So I don't know if I was lucky or maybe the Brunel team is just like that, but they gave me not only just through like not only through like helping as in like giving me the resources, but just through like validation. I know it's bad, but you shouldn't have validation, but just through like just them speaking to me, that was helpful in itself. So I'll start with how Brunel, like what the journey was. So as I said, once I got diagnosed, once I was in the process of getting diagnosed with my doctor, with the NHS, they recommended me to go and inform Brunel. I called Student Centre and I was like, hey, I have this. What, I was told, I don't know what I can get. Maybe I can get an EC, like easier EC. I don't know. And then person on the phone recommended me. They said, look, it's a long journey. Well done for getting the diagnosis of ADHD. Why don't you try here at Brunel? It means that you can get direct support from us and you are entitled to the disability student allowance. I was like, what's that? And they explained to me what it was. And then I went into another process. So once I dealt with that, I then booked in with someone who basically sorted out first what I could like a pre-diagnosis almost. So I did a pre-diagnosis. I talked about, what my struggles are and why this is. And I would say a tip I would give if you're in this process is note down, write in your like on your iPhone or on a piece of paper, like all the symptoms that you have, because when you're doing it, you kind of, although they're not actually trying to test you, you do feel like that, and you kind of lose track on what matters. So if you can like write down like all the things that relate to your ADHD and how it affects you on your phone, so you could just glance at it, you literally just even pull it out and be like this, that, just so you have it in the back of your head. And yes, what they did, I just spoke about. I remember speaking about, how how I had panic attacks in lectures. I remember speaking about how hard labs were for me. I remember speaking about, the audio processing disorders, and then how bad maths was for me sometimes, just those small things that related. And then they would ask questions like, do you also get this? And I was like, yeah, I do. And they would say, oh, that's related to ADHD as well. Oh, okay. Didn't even know that. Like, it was just, I was constantly finding out things. So once I got that was done. That was with a person called, I don't know who, Mr. Pankaj, I think he was a really nice person, had a daughter with dyslexia. So once that was done, the next step was actually getting diagnosed by Brunel. So this is like a 2-hour assessment in which they do test for many specific learning disorders, so SLPD. So they did it was kind of, I don't know if it was kind of like non-verbal and verbal reasoning. I don't know if you know what that is. I have no idea.
I'm not an expert. I would say I don't know off the top of my head, but if you do know, great. If not, I encourage our listeners to check. Please look for resources that explain that.
Yeah, so it's kind of like I don't know if you've ever applied for a job through Indeed and you have to do those tests of like, where does the shape go and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, imagine the Indeed like that, but for 2 hours straight. Like, I hate those Indeed exams. And no wonder it was so bad, because I had ADHD. So ableist, Indeed. But yeah, it was intense like that, like 2 hours of that. I had to write a paragraph. I had to make shape things. And I know it sounds like, for me, it sounds it does sound childish, and it might sound childish to like whoever's listening. But when you have ADHD, dyspraxia, dyslexia, these your motor skills and just small skills are affected, and this therefore has other impacts for and other you can have other difficulties with things. So I found out that through this 2-hour assessment, I found out that I had ADHD. And I also found out that I was comorbid with other things. Like, I don't fully have dyspraxia, but there were things that I struggled with dyspraxia, such as my spatial awareness and putting rotating things and things like that. So the shape, those Indeed tests for the shape things, that's what I struggled with. And that's a good thing, that the fact that you have a spectrum, because ADHD is not just ADHD, autism is not just autism. It is, you do need to have enough of those symptoms to get diagnosed with that, but you can definitely have other traits of other things, which is what I had. And yeah, through that assessment, I then sent that off to gov.uk. I applied for this disability student allowance, and then I got an assessment with with the student body from the government, and they assessed what I needed. And I got Grammarly premium, because my grammar was something I really struggled with. I was allowed extra time. I was allowed rest breaks. They gave what else did they? I was given a software for Word to use, a voice to speech to text software, things like that. And yeah, so that whole process maybe took under a month, maybe, but it's because that was Christmas. That was Christmas as well, so it took under a month to do all of that, which is really, really quick, really, really quick. So it meant that I sat in prep, discovering I had ADHD in roughly like October. Kind of talked myself out of it, in and out of it, for like a month until like November something, and then went through all of this. Did my assessment in December, got diagnosed in January. So all like I officially called them around maybe end of November, and I got diagnosed in January. So that's really quick.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that's, that's really great to see that they offered you a lot of support, because I think that there is that tendency, I guess, sometimes with, I guess, whether not only like university, but I guess also with jobs and stuff, like we were saying, that we feel like sometimes if we ask for these resources, that either A, we're cheating someone else out of them, or like B, we're sort of like taking advantage of things. And I think that's really key, like what you said, that the only thing you can do is just go out and ask and see what's available for you. And it's great to see that you did do those things, and it's great that Brunel did support you. One thing I did want to mention, because essentially with this episode, I bring up an organization that's very, very key to us as a team. We all like this organization, and they're essentially Mind UK. Now, I've always said that Mind UK, and I won't necessarily go into details about who they are because we've done them on previous episodes, and if you want to know more, if you go to their MC of the Month page, it's got like a brief description there. But essentially, the reason why I want to talk about Mind here is because they offer like a lot of not only resources, but like sort of like direction, like where's the right place to go type thing as well. So they've got, and we'll include the link in our description, and it'll be somewhere on our website as well. But they do have some stuff about like ADHD, and saying that what someone who experiences ADHD, what some of the symptoms might be, the different avenues of support and treatment, and essentially giving you organizations that you can also get in contact with, sort of like wider than, I guess, just Brunel. So if, for example, you find out that, I don't know, it might take a bit longer at university, or, you tried the NHS route and it's still haven't heard anything back, then please do check out Mind's website, because they do talk about different organizations there. And also, I guess, from the opposite point of view of if there's any, I guess, businesses people or lecturers or anyone listening from that point of view, it does offer advice on what you can do for individuals that you maybe, for example, if it's a workplace, you work under you that have ADHD, or if it's a university, like how can you ensure that your lectures are friendly towards towards someone with ADHD or any other, whether it's like some of the others that we mentioned as well. You can always ensure that you can just like, like there's a few links that you can click on, but essentially it just talks about that. And then it also is nice because they also recommend, they talk about things of how, for example, like ADHD can affect mental health. Like what we were saying today, of if you feel like you're struggling with the exam side of things, then you're going to want to, your mental health might deteriorate because you feel like you're not at the point where you want to be type thing. But yeah, I always like talking about Mind where I can. So yeah, there's a little shout out to them.
Can I add?
Yeah, go ahead.
Mind is if you feel like you may have autism, or if you do have autism as well, Mind is something that before I studied at Brunel, when I was, as I said, I was talking to my sister, they really supported her and us with that as well. So if that is also not just ADHD, but if you are neurodivergent, and as Jeffrey said, being neurodivergent, having ADHD and having autism is very comorbid with other things such as bipolar and depression, OCD. So Mind can really help you navigate that and navigate where to go through first, what your options are if you were to go private, and also if you are to go private, where to go private, and if you want to go for the NHS, what are the other free organizations that can go with the mental health side of things. So I also highly recommend Mind as well.
Oh, thank you very much. But yeah, going on to our next question. I mean, we might have already got some advice already. I'm sure there's some people that might be thinking about, checking out some of the resources that we've mentioned already. But essentially, I just wanted to ask, what's one piece of advice you would give to a new student that is joining, whether it's Brunel University or any university? But I guess I'm going to ask this in like two parts. So I guess from the one part of like just a typical, or just any university student, so someone that's completed their A levels and is just going to university, what's like one bit of advice that you'd give to them? But also, I guess like what you were saying as well, if there is someone that knows that, for example, they might be in the same situation as you, they might be thinking that for through their A levels, they might have had some difficulties with the exam process or with coursework, and they might be in the process of diagnosing themselves with ADHD. What advice would you essentially give to that student as well? So I guess both avenues, even if it's the same advice, that's perfectly fine. But any advice you would give to some new students who are coming to university?
So I'm going to get very salty and passionate here because when I was doing my A levels, my sixth form was very, very emphasizing on the fact that, when you go to university, no one will help you. You're by yourself. No one cares about you. You are just money to them. Like they were so emphasizing on you have to be this independent person and you can't ask, like maybe I'm seeing it a bit more aggressive than what it actually was, but they were very emphasizing on the fact that a lot of uni is independent work, which is 100% the biggest lie you'll ever hear. If you're coming from sixth form and you are scared that you have to go lectures by yourself, you have to do this by yourself, you don't. There are so many the reason why I didn't know about this help that I could have got, the disability student allowance, even the mentoring that Brunel gave to me, I didn't know about this because I had in my head of when you go to uni, you're an independent person, that you can't rely on other people and these services, because these services are available to you. This is your education. It's your university. You are clearly paying for it. So you should therefore have access to these things. And like, even if you are someone that might not be struggling with, with like a learning disorder, ADHD, autism, things like that. Even if you're someone that struggles in a certain thing with anything, you should always reach out to your university. You never know what part of it might help you. And you could do that through going to lectures, through looking online. For me, it was just calling up the student center and saying, this is what I'm struggling with. What can you help me with? And then guiding you to places. So that would be my help for an A-level student, someone that's going into university, as well as ask your teachers as well if you think you're struggling with this, because A-levels was really, really difficult because of, oh my God, A-levels was horrible. I don't even want to relive it. It was so bad. So I would say go to your teachers, talk to them about it as well. Say that this is what you're struggling with, this is what you might be struggling with, because you could get so much more help than you thought that you deserved. And that's like the biggest advice that I am giving. The end of my waffle is basically saying you are entitled to so much more help than you think that you deserve. So please do not ever feel embarrassed or feel like you have to be this independent person that like does everything on their own and things like that. Like you really don't. Yeah. And as for, the second question was for
anyone that might be a student who might have ADHD or any other learning disorders. What would you say is like your one recommendation for them? Even if it is, like I said, the same thing, that's perfectly fine. But what would you say is your recommendation for them?
So once I got diagnosed through Brunel, I still have like people that know me, that know my process, like know the process that I went through, that say, oh, I know one of my friends got diagnosed with dyspraxia soon after me, and my housemate got diagnosed with dyslexia, and because they've seen someone else go through it, they were like, okay, I can now go through it myself. So if maybe it's not advice, but if I'm to do anything, please know that it's not this really long waiting, like it's not something that you might be said no to, or you're making stuff up, or you're just trying to be different. That's what I thought. It was trying to be different and things like that. It's something that you are entitled to, and it's something that is very easy, but no one really tells you how easy, and no one really tells you how relieving it is once you get to the end. So my advice would be, if you are going through something like that, where you think you might have ADHD, where you think you're struggling, then I would say go call up, literally just call up your university and say, I'm struggling with this. It's the same advice for the A level people as well. Sorry, but just call up university and say, I'm struggling with this. This is what I feel like, and this is what I feel like I'm going through. Because even if you do not have ADHD, autism, a specific learning disorder, there are other things that the university like can help you with, like BPD, OCD, depression, and things like this. Like that, you are entitled to so much more than you really will think. So give your student center a call, harass them, tell them that I have this, please. What do I do with this? I feel like this. They'll really guide you to the right pathways.
No, that's so true, and I feel like I'm getting nuggets of wisdom because I think it's like you said. I think first off, with the first point, the idea that as students, especially I guess as you like when you graduate and you go into a workplace, there's that tendency to feel like you can't ask for help, or like you're supposed to be like super prepared. You're supposed to know everything. You're supposed to be able to any software you're asked to use, or any exams they ask you to do, like you're supposed to be like, yes, I can do this, like I'm super prepared for this. And the fact of the matter is that's not the case. We had a guest speaker on here before called Kem, and she was talking about that so she was at that time was doing a master's and had like a job, and she was saying that she was working in a lab as a technician, and she said that when she applied for the job, she just told the people that she was applying for that I don't have all of these skills that you've got here. Like some of the things that they're asking software related, I don't have those skills, but I'm willing to learn them. Like I don't want you to feel like this is something that's that you shouldn't count me for the job. And they said no, like you've got a really good CV, we really like you as a candidate, we're perfectly fine to like let you learn on the job. And that's the thing, most if not all jobs are willing to let individuals just learn these skills and these techniques and all of this like on the job. So I think 100% just being okay to like ask for help when you need it is so true, and it's definitely something that people need to understand and need to realize that that's okay. I think also like what you're saying about this whole like individual idea that you just, I guess, you go in, you don't need to like think about anything else. You're
Don't
just
need
there.
anyone.
Exactly. You don't need anyone. You're just doing it's like, especially I think at university, I think maybe I don't think all my teachers were like like you're saying that, you've got to be super independent. But I do feel like there was that tendency that everyone's just like, yeah, so, it's the A levels, you're studying in class, you may be like revising a lot together, you're working together. And then they're just like, university is similar, but it's different because you'll be still working in groups, but the emphasis is on you as an individual, and you need to focus on like how you're going to manage your studies. And it's just like, yes, that is true, but like what you were saying, at the end of the day, it's not just you. It's you're working in a group of people. Whether like for example with me and my course, when I joined Brunel, it was a new course, so there were only like 20 of us in a class that was the whole year group. There was only 20 of us. I know for some courses, especially like biomed, civil engineering, that number is a lot bigger. It's in the hundreds, sometimes the thousands, depending on the university. But you'll still have like that group that you essentially work with, and your friends, and it's all about having that support network. Being able to understand that, like for example, I personally, lab work was not my strong suit because I just didn't like labs. But I had friends that were great at it, and I was just like, hey, I'm happy for you to like let me, like, I'll work with you, I'll do the work, but just tell me like what you want me to do, because I was just like, I might not necessarily know exactly when it comes to lab work, like what's the best thing. I know that there were like sometimes when we did more like research based stuff, and I was better at that. So they were just like, oh, you look for certain papers, what this term to use, what this and that. So I definitely agree that like that is that tendency for people to think, yes, you have to, like, university is a solo experience. You're not there to like make friends. You're there to get your degree, get out, and then it's sort of like a free for all after you graduate to find a job. When actually it's not that. It's more of like you're going there, you're all individuals, like, and I think I think someone told me that university is like a humbling experience, and I think it is true, because it's kind of like, I guess with school, sometimes you might feel like it, certain individuals, whether it's from the walks of life that they come from, might have an advantage over you. But university is that humbling experience because it doesn't matter like where you came from or not. Like, yes, you might have, I don't know, like for example, certain students might have more money than other students, which is true. But when it comes to the academic side of things, it's like humbling because it doesn't matter, for example, if you there's that person that's always at lectures, or that person who never takes it serious. It's that humbling thing because you're just like, from the get-go, they're just like, yeah, we'll support you if you ask for the support. But if you think you're the best, you can't learn anything from anyone, then you'll then see that actually that's not true. So yeah, I definitely agree that like having a support network, not only of just like friends, but also using your lecturers and speaking to them, or the resources at your university or online to help you, is definitely really key. So yeah, I definitely think that's true. And yeah, the last bit of advice you gave, I think is definitely true because yeah, like what we were saying before about like whether it's my friend or other people, that there might be students that I guess that like there probably are loads of students, if I'm being honest, that probably wish that they were diagnosed at an earlier stage, or wish that they had called up their university or school and was just like, hi, I think that I think I might have ADHD, or I might have another learning disorder. Like, what could you do to essentially help me with my studies? Because I don't want to feel disadvantaged. I don't want to like, feel that I'm sort of like pulling my group down if it's group work, because everyone else is like, they've sorted out, they just agreed they're going to do their own thing, and there's me struggling and I don't know who to speak to. And I think, like what you said, a lot of universities are perfectly fine to just be like, hey, this is the situation, like we're happy to tell you this and this. And I'd say if not, we've, and another, I guess, group we've mentioned in previous episodes is the student room. And the student room, for anyone who doesn't know, I'll quickly mention them. It's just like it's like an online platform where students from universities can talk about like their university experience. They also can do it for like A-level, and I think A-level, college, and university. So they just talk about like it's students essentially talking about their universities, and they can rate them, they can discuss them. So you can also, like, if you feel like the university doesn't give you a clear answer, or the university doesn't get back to you, you can just like put a message on there and be like, oh, I'm a new student looking to go to this university. Like, is there anyone here that's had this? Like, I've tried to find out what resources they've got to students with ADHD. Does anyone know about them? And most of the organization that runs it will try and get you in contact with someone who does that. If not, someone who's a part of the group will just contribute. So that's always a good thing. And then finally, there are like university rankings. There's the NSS student satisfaction surveys that rank like each course at each university by how students have ranked it. And there are questions of like, did the university support you academically? If you did have learning disabilities, like disorders, like what did the university, like, did your course specifically support you enough? So you can know that, I don't know, for example, one university might have like a really high, I don't know, you might get really good at recommendation, but then you'll find out that specifically for that course, they don't actually offer a lot of support. So it might help you with picking which universities you want to go to and things like that. So yeah, so definitely agree. That's so true. Yeah, I guess go. Oh, did you want to say something?
I was just going to agree with you essentially. I didn't know about the student room and how great. I remember I used to just find out like exam was like after GCSE A level, all the answers. That's how after you do the exam, that's how I used it. That's all I know about it. But yeah, that's great about student room. And in terms of, you said your peers as well. I guess I didn't mention that when I was saying, you go into your degree alone, you think you're alone, but your peers and your friends and the people that do your course with you, there are things that you might not be the best at, and someone else, it's not cheating. It's not cheating if you're just helping each other in terms. Okay, no, I'm not advocating. I mean, what am I saying? What am I trying to say? It's you. I'm not advocating.
No. I get what you're saying. You're saying like everyone's got their strengths and weaknesses, and it's some.
I thought maybe it sounded like it's not cheating if you guys are just sharing answers in an exam. Like your guys, no, it. I mean, yeah, some people have their strengths, people have their weaknesses, and it's not. You're not you're not a bad person. You're not a bad student if there are things that you're struggling with and you have to ask for someone else for help with. It's still your grade at the end of the day. Not cheating, but but helping, for example, things like that. Um, things like that. And if, I mean, your course was 20 people, so if you have a small course, really take advantage of that. Sometimes you might think, oh God, there's only 20 people here, but it's really good. Like everyone who knows everything about the course is in that lecture room because there's only 20 people. For me, we had biomedical sciences. There's a lot of people, but make use of group chats, and the people that you're doing group work with. Keep in contact with them because they might help you with other things as well in the future and future assessments and things like that. So just really take advantage of like the people around you. Why I'm saying take advantage of people. I'm not saying, I mean, like take advantage of being in a big group of people.
No, that's true. It's using
don't cheat and don't take advantage of people. Just do the other thing. Yeah,
exactly. No, that's true. And I think it's just thinking like what you're saying. It's just about I was just thinking when you said it that even at a workplace it's the same thing, that you at a workplace will not be expected to be great at everything, because ideally it's that's not how workplaces work. You have a specific role and you'll be filling that in, but essentially it's more that like what you're saying, that if someone is good at, I don't know, like marketing, then they will focus on the marketing side of things. If someone else is good at like data handling, they will do data handling. And it's similar with university, that if someone is good at like lab work, they can offer support and like give advice on people who are doing like lab work stuff. If someone else is really good at presentations and is good at doing like presentation skills, or like giving advice about presentations as well, that also is good and can help students to like work on their presentation skills. So yeah, I definitely think that that's true. And yeah, I think like what you said, that whether you've got a small group that really well and you can essentially you're good friends with everyone, or whether it's you're in a bigger group but you're utilizing like your support network within that group, it's just about like getting to know people and like as a group knowing like what your strengths and weaknesses are, and then just leaning on those people when you need to, for like if it's like I said, like you struggle in an area but they're really good at another area, or that vice versa is really key. Yeah, we're going to go on to the last official question, and I guess it's looking forward is the great thing, and I guess the question is essentially, what's next for you? What can we expect from you in the future? What are you going to be doing in the next couple of, whether it's weeks, months, years? What's next for you?
I have no idea, not one clue at all. Since I've graduated from biomedical sciences, I guess what I thought the world of work would be, I thought it was, you have to get a job straight away, or you'll struggle, or, it's so hard to find a job these days and so hard for graduates and things like that. So I kind of had it in my head. I also told myself, it's not everyone else, but myself, you have to go get a job and you have to do this straight away. But right now, I think I'm going to take time to find, like, I am working, but I'm also going to take time to find out what I like, that's good for me, and I like talk to my peers, and maybe just understand where my degree can take me, and yeah. But the summers, I have no clue. Yeah, just catch me in a few weeks and ask me how I'm doing, and I'll have a completely different answer, I guess.
No, that's all right. And I think I really, I guess, yeah. I mean, we've come to the end of the episode, and I wanted to say, Dahlia, it's been great talking to you. I think mainly because you're so honest. You're so honest with your answers. And that's really good. And I think, to be honest, that's great. Like your answer is perfect. You don't, and I think that's something that uni students again have that tendency to think of, that you have to come out of studies, whether it's undergraduate or postgraduate, and you have to be like, I have to apply for a job, or I have to know like what area I want to work in, and I have to do this and I have to do that. And I'm not saying that having that is bad, but I also know as a student that sometimes you might originally think, yeah, I really want to work in this career, and then you'll just be like, actually, you know what? I don't. Like, I've thought about it, I've looked into it, and it might be that, you just find out that all the jobs that you want to apply for in the area are either full, or it might be a case of that you find out that actually, after looking into more detail, the job isn't exactly what you thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I said, it's really nice that you've been, not only with the previous question, but all the questions, you've just been really honest and open, and you've let our audience and me to essentially get to know you a bit more, to learn about your personal life and the things that you went through with university. So yeah, I guess first off, I just want to say a huge thank you for being on the podcast and for all this amazing information you've given to not only me, but also to our listeners and our audience. I'm sure they really appreciated it as much as I did.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great being very truthful and just saying whatever I wanted. Thank you so much. And yeah, I guess, I know that this is the end of the podcast, but one last tiny piece of advice: take advantage of internships and placement years, because as when you're coming into the world of work, you can see what you like and see what you don't like, but internships are a really good way for you to do that as well. So that's another little piece of advice. Yeah,
that's so true. It's almost like you're part of the team, because that's what we love to do here. We always love to recommend, we always say that taking advantage of whether it's doing summer placements or a year placement, it's so true, it's so good. It does give you like that, I guess, one, it gives you that edge of applying that knowledge, but also the most important thing, I think, is that it allows you to really know, like, do I want to work in this career for the rest of my life? Because there is that tendency when you graduate, you might necessarily be looking for money, you might be trying to move out, and it's harder then, once you've graduated and you're working in that position for like a certain amount of time, to be like, actually, you know what? I really don't want to do it. I want to like lead, and you might be financially stuck in that job. But when you're doing a placement, there's a bit more of that option to just be like, actually, you know what? Like, I will do this for like a couple of, exactly. Yeah. I'll do it for a bit. And then after, just like, I'm never going to return to this field ever again. I definitely think that's so true. And yeah, thank you very much for recommending that. I guess before you go, we just want to ask you, there might be some people listening who are just like, wow, Dahlia's got a really cool story. She's a really cool person. How can I get in contact with her? What's the best way to speak to her, type thing? So essentially, what is the best way for any of our audience to get in contact with you if they've got any questions or they want to know a bit more about yourself?
So you can add me on LinkedIn. So that is Dahlia R, Dahlia R, and the letter R. And then on my Instagram, you can follow me at Sorry I Was Eating. My DMs are open. You can ask me anything you want. And yeah, that's that.
Oh, wonderful. You heard it here first, everyone. And if you are interested, please do let Dahlia know. Again, thank you everyone for listening and watching. It's been great to have you guys as our audience. If you like this video, a like, comment, and subscribe is always appreciated. If you want to see more of our content, then make sure you are subscribed to our Patreon, where you get first access, but you'll also be able to do a few more things, and you can check that out by clicking the link in our the description as well, or the link in our website as well. And finally, just thank you again for being an amazing audience. We wish you all the best in all that you guys have got coming up. And yeah, we'll see you on the next episode of Behind the Curtain. So that's a bye from us here. Wish you all the best and have a wonderful day.